Episode 24 of Deconstructed, the podcast. How's it going, Tony?
It's going good. I think we had a week off just because, at some point life does get in the way, and even podcasters need to take some time off.
Yes, that's true. The reason that we took a week off was I was camping. I went camping last weekend, and I could have tried to record the podcast out in the wild, but our internet was sketchy, and there were about 12 kids running around.
Wow.
It was a big group, and so that would have been very difficult. But yes, it was a week off. It was a nice week off.
For me, just hanging out. Well, I guess more than hanging out. It's like actually kind of doing a little bit more around the city. So we went to the beach, which is nice. Haven't gone there before, which is kind of funny because I've been here for 2.5 years and we've never gone to explore the city. So it was nice to just take some time in.
Where is the beach in the Bay Area?
In San Francisco, there's Ocean Beach. There's small beaches over that kind of overlook the Golden Gate.
Mm-hmm.
But basically on the west side of the city is where the beach is. And I guess you can go down further along the coast, but we stayed in the city. It's 20 minutes.
Okay.
It's kind of like Seattle, I guess, right? Because you can I don't remember. Seattle doesn't necessarily have beaches. There's rocky coast.
Yeah, that's why I asked the question, because I grew up in Hawaii, and so I'm very
oh yeah, no, it's not comparable at all.
My bar for beaches is very high, and so
yes, no, yeah. I'd set the same standard. Yeah, they're nowhere near as nice as Hawaii, but close enough. It's the Pacific still, so
yeah. I guess we have Alki Beach, which is across the sound from downtown Seattle, and so you can see the skyline of Seattle.
Yeah.
And I guess technically there are beaches that they cut the sound, the bay. Those are all ocean water or ocean water mix.
Yeah.
I'll give it to you.
Yeah. So, yeah. Go where you can, I guess, for now. But yeah, it's nice.
I'm wearing my USA jersey today.
USA, that's right. The Olympics kicked off yesterday.
Commemoration of the Olympics. Did you watch the ceremony?
Did not.
We watched it last night. Me, my daughter, my wife. It was good. It was unique.
I caught all the clips on TikTok though. So
yeah, I'm excited for swimming. My sports to watch are swimming, gymnastics, soccer, obviously, cycling, and track and field. I mean, track and field's, I kind of like track and field. It's the big one, but not as much as swimming. And then my daughter's really into gymnastics now and taekwondo. So taekwondo would be another one.
I saw some of the prelims of taekwondo. I was
good.
Okay, not as interesting as I thought it was.
It's going to be interesting. They have breakdancing this year.
I'll be interested to see the breakdancing. I don't follow the Olympics too much. Well, I'm kind of like you. It's there's a very specific sport. So I always find volleyball. Actually, volleyball is fun to watch. Soccer. Although watching Olympic soccer after the Euro Cup and the Copa, it's probably not the same. But anyways, we'll see. And usually most of the final stuff I'll try and catch. Right? All the semi, the prelims and such, is not as interesting because of the. Anyways, TikTok is. I will say though, I feel like TikTok has it makes the Olympics feel different this year. It's just got a different vibe than let's say what it was on Instagram or even Twitter back in the last Olympics. It just feels a little bit more real.
I'll have to look at some TikToks. I try to avoid them since I don't want spoilers, but in this day and age, it's just hard.
It's hard. Yeah. If you can get onto Olympic Talk, I guess that's what it is, how everybody says it. Yeah, it's actually really interesting. Because you get so many viewpoints. It's actually kind of crazy. It's actually kind of crazy how good the algorithm is. So, for example, there was one I forget. It was one of the Australian athletes. She was in her room and she's like, "Can you hear this? Can you hear this?" And apparently it was the Fiji team. They were singing one of their pre-game or post-game, like they were just all singing together. And she was kind of playing it. And then a couple of things later, it was showing from the Fijians, is it Fijians? Whatever. The Fijians' perspective of what was happening. And so she was like, they're somewhere down there, but you can hear them singing. And then the next couple of TikToks were them filming themselves and they were kind of explaining what they were doing. I was like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like live.
Yeah.
Live.
Yeah. That's what it's turning out to be.
Imagine wearing like a headset and then being able to switch to different perspective.
Yeah. And I feel bad for like all the swimmers who are having to swim and dive in open water. This is gross.
Oh, really? Everyone, what's going on with it?
Well, so they've decided that they're like all the planned swimming events that they were having in open water, like in the scene, the river,
like the triathlon or decathlon or whatever.
Yeah, like that is going for it. And the ones I saw were like some of the diving ones were happening. They weren't in the. I don't think they were in the river. They were. I forget where they were, but it looked like they were diving. I guess they were diving in the river. But I mean, they were like showing it's like all this crap was just floating, and they were having to dive into it. And I was like, man, can't believe they're actually pushing forward through that. So I feel like a lot of Olympians are going to end up getting sick or like infected. It's gross.
What you do for glory.
Yes. Good. I'm sure we'll have more. I mean, there's Olympics are like for like what, 2-3 weeks.
They showed the medals in yesterday's opening ceremony. They had a little unveil of the medals.
Yeah,
they look good. Like,
no.
Yeah, you saw them.
Designs are cool. What actually makes them unique, right? Is because they actually took pieces of the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah,
and that's where some of the medals coming from. Which wow, that's cool.
Yeah, Olympics is always fun to watch, and in 4 years, they're gonna be here on our home turf. So
you saw Snoop Dogg; he was part of the torch relay.
Did you? I've been seeing this meme of like, I'll just send it to you later. But basically, they're talking. It was like someone must have designed the torch first, and then said, "Oh, we need to have Snoop Dogg here." It kind of looks like
well, it'll give us a couple of more weeks of additional stuff to talk about. So
yeah,
it's a worldwide event. Why not?
I guess while we're on the worldwide events, then Kamala Harris was also a big one in the last week, and sure everyone knows Kamala Harris is officially, or not officially, sorry, because the Democratic National Convention hasn't happened yet, but she is 99% likely to be the Democratic nominee for president this year after President Biden announced that he was stepping down last week. And so far, my impression and what I'm hearing, and I agree, is it's a good move. I think it's a good move. I think it's injecting a lot more energy into the US in terms of just feeling better about the candidates that we have. She's not a shoo-in, obviously. Like, there's still a ton of Trump supporters, and in the recent polling, from what I'm hearing, is they're mostly neck and neck, which is positive because Biden was trailing Trump beforehand. I think she's going to bring a lot of support from women, from people of different racial, ethnicities. And what's, I think, most important is he's going to be bringing in support from the younger generation who you would have not had voted for Biden. So personally, like, I'm excited. I'm a Democrat, but I'm not a blind Democrat. Just like many other people, when I saw President Biden's debate, I was pretty disappointed and let down. And worried about things. But now that Kamala is here, I'm feeling energized. How do you feel about it?
No, I mean, there's definitely a lot more optimism, I guess you're seeing from the Democratic side, at least from what I've just seen on the news and on social media. So yeah, no, I mean, it's kind of like reinvigorated the race, where I think at a certain point, especially after the debate, people were just like, oh, it's definitely going to be 4 more years of Republicans, right? But now it's like, oh, okay, maybe not. And then whoever is running her social media, man, they are fire. They're just doing a crazy awesome job. I'm just like, wow, okay, they're really getting, they're really leaning into kind of the capturing the younger demographic with the way their approach is, which I find it's actually very, should almost be like a case study how they flipped it around so quickly. And the other thing is that they're going after Trump really hard in social, which is like, I don't know why the Biden campaign didn't do that in the beginning either, right? But it's like,
I think
what is it like?
I think there's so much strong rebuttal that anything that Biden would try to go after that they couldn't.
Well, I mean, it's more like, even like in the previous election with Trump, right? It's like, it was very one-sided, where Trump was the one who was attacking, was doing all these vicious lies and stuff. But it's like, they're kind of taking it and they're flipping it around, right? Where the one that stuck out to me was like a day or two ago, where they did a cut of Trump saying, he's trying to make fun of Kamala, of saying, oh, she's a prosecutor and like competing against like this convicted felon, right? And then it cut to, this message is approved by Kamala Harris and whatever, right? And it's like using his own words against him, which makes it very difficult for his side to like say, oh no, I didn't say that, or whatever, they're making it up, right? It's just very.
Do you think Biden maybe was against that type of stuff?
Maybe.
Yeah. Whereas Kamala is more like, no, let's.
Yeah, she's like, let's do it. Yeah, let's do it, right? I mean, because ultimately, she does have to approve or have buy-in, right, of the approach that they're taking, and it's a very, not tit for tat, but it's like not just taking it. Where I felt like Biden, he was just taking it, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're so old. It's like, I'm not old, and he was more of like, I'm not old. When he could have said, you're just as old as I am, fool. Right? Like, you're what, 2-3 years younger than me? Right? And he could have taken that approach too, right? To be more of like, what are you talking about? It's like, you're not much, you're acting like you're 30, but you're only like 3 years, whatever, younger than me. And so I think, they could have taken that approach. For some reason, they didn't. So I think Biden probably had opportunity to do that too, whether it fit his profile or not. I think that's probably a different conversation. But anyways,
Yeah.
So Kamala, yes, she's hitting on all 6-8 cylinders at this point, but we'll see how it. I mean, it'll only matter when we're like 30 days when voting actually starts, right? Yeah. So we'll see.
Her speech was her first speech was awesome. Like,
yeah, no, it was good.
Right on it. Her first video was like,
yeah,
on it.
So it reminds me of when Obama was.
Yeah, that's the thing people are saying, and I agree. Totally agree.
That's the feel. It's like, oh, this is like the golden age again.
She's probably using a lot of the same maybe people from that were involved with Obama's campaign.
Maybe, I don't know. A lot of them. I don't think. Well, I'm sure some, but it does feel like there's like definitely some new blood, at least within the social side. I'm waiting for the next debate is really what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, it's invigorating. All right. You want to sum up what we're going to talk about here?
Yeah. So missed a week, but again, this major earning week is happening this week and next week. So that'll give us some things to talk about. But for this week, Tesla earnings, of course, top of mind. RoboTaxi delayed. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Yeah, big announcement from OpenAI is they're kind of like what is it? Throwing their hat? Is it hat in the ring? Glove in the ring? Like they're finally going full on out of Google. We're trying to take your cake and eat it too. And then of course, stranded astronauts. Poor astronauts, like who couldn't know Starliner is. They just haven't been able to fix it. But yeah, I think those are the big things, or at least the most interesting things. So, other than the Olympics and Kamala Harris.
Cool. So yeah, Tesla earnings last week, as expected, as we call it on this podcast, they were going to have bad earnings and drop, which they did. So yeah, Tesla missed expectations for most of all their numbers related to earnings. We all know that's because of the weak EV demand that's been going on this year. And we've been tracking and watching Tesla try to deploy all of these levers and growth hacks to sell more cars. And quite honestly, like those hacks are working, but the EV demand is still the EV demand is so much less this year compared to last year that it's affecting Tesla's sales for sure. So the key things is that their margin was at 18%, which is, I think, down quarter over quarter. I think it was like 18.5% previous quarter. But what most analysts are more interested in is that at the peak, Tesla's margin was 29%. I think that was probably like a year and a half ago. So that's definitely something that is probably what the street wants to improve the most is margins, because margins equal extra money, right? That's the amount of money they are making. And the higher that gets, the more money they have. And the other notable thing was sales were down 4.8% year over year. So again, a sign of kind of declining growth of EVs. And then during the freeform talk, most of Elon's narrative was around, again, positioning the company as a tech company versus a car company. So we saw him do this in the last earnings report, where one of the quotes he said was, if you don't believe in Tesla as a tech company, then you shouldn't be investing, basically trying to solidify Tesla's brand as a technology company, not a car company. And so he talked a lot around AI and how AI is a center point of Tesla, and full self-driving, Grok, robotics. That's all part of what Tesla is going to be focusing on in the next years to come here. So obviously he's doing that so that people start to price Tesla as an AI tech company versus a car company, which would bump up the stock. But we saw that after earnings, Tesla stock, I think the next day was down, I think around 12%. I think I saw it touch 212, maybe 210, down from its highs of about 280 or so, like just 2 months.
It's about like 265. It's kind of where the peak. I guess the peak was. Yeah, it was about 270. It was like the top.
So this is a buying opportunity. Some think this is I don't know, like Tesla. Like we need to see what's going to happen on 10/10. But that's the other thing I mentioned. Elon again acknowledged that the RoboTaxi event is going to be on October 10th versus the original September timeframe, because they wanted to fix a few more things and get a few more things right before unveiling the RoboTaxi. So, your thoughts, Tony?
So, I mean, not unexpected. I think when Tesla announced their deliveries and started the initial talk about RoboTaxi, and they what was that jump? It jumped like an insane run it had, right? From like 180 all the way to 260.
I mean, at the low, early I think around February, right? February, March, pre-March.
Yeah.
The lows was around 150, 160.
Yeah. So it's like, it was like up almost 50%, right? And we were like, what is going on? But But I think earnings prove what a lot of analysts were thinking of. Like, yeah, the delivery numbers improve, but at what cost, right? And so what we saw is like that margin hit. So going a little bit further, it's really about people aren't buying Teslas without the discount again, right? Or without some type of discount on the price. And so it's showing that they're not buying Tesla because it's Tesla, or because it's like, at the forefront of EV technology, and they're needing incentives to buy, right? Which impact margin, which is not a good thing. It's not a good thing, because before, that's what Tesla was all about, right? Oh, we don't need marketing. We don't need discounts. Like, people just want to buy into Tesla. And then now that's not happening, partially because of, I think I've seen a lot of news now because of Elon's political leanings and
Because of
what
Elon.
what he's been doing over the past year. It's actually driving away buyers, right? And then more so because there's so many alternatives now. Rivian, I think is where people are headed, right? And then you have like Kia and Hyundai actually have pretty strong offerings. And so, yeah, it's interesting that it's an interesting dynamics, because there's just so many things going on. It's like, all right, people don't like Elon. It's like EVs in general, like, and then he's trying to like shift everything. Like, I know he's talked about Grok and, Tesla's an AI company, but he still has XAI as a standalone separate company that's not part of Tesla. And so that's the one hurdle I'm just not able to grok. Like, how is he actually trying to position it all? Because Tesla's the only public company, but the rest of it are still private. And so does that mean Tesla shareholders actually get part of that benefit? If that makes sense. Like, I just haven't looked into how X is structured across all its products, companies, because I think they're independent of Tesla itself, right?
Yeah, I think X Holdings, I guess, is independent, just like SpaceX is independent.
Yeah. So like Twitter, not Twitter, X.com, right? Grok, the robotics don't sit under Tesla. Well,
not from an ownership perspective, right? But
correct.
That doesn't mean that there's the strong connective tissue of Elon, right? To which they can utilize their technologies.
Right. Yeah, but so I guess what I'm saying is like, all right, so let's suppose Grok or, his AI takes off, right? He would just end up spinning out XAI as a separate company, listed separately on the stock market, right? Tesla shareholders wouldn't actually get anything directly from that.
No, unless Tesla were to, I guess. Well, I don't think this could actually happen though. Like, I was gonna say, Tesla were to actually make an investment into X, but I think that's a conflict of interest, right?
Yeah. Anyways, so I mean, we'll see. I think now we have the 10/10 date to look forward to see what the RoboTaxi is actually going to be about.
Yeah.
On the flip side, like Google's Waymo has like fully launched in I guess I can say fully launched in San Francisco at this point. Is like, you don't have to sign up for a beta. Anybody can just download the app and book a ride. So yeah, I mean, so it's like Tesla is not the first to do RoboTaxi. Waymo is, like, in an effective, actually usable way. I'm starting to see a lot more Waymos around the street. People are starting to use them a lot more. But yeah, so Tesla is not first. Waymo, actually. I'll say Waymo. I know there's a bunch of other like smaller startup type of companies, but
like Cruise, Waymo, there's
Cruise is shut down.
Uber's doing some things, right?
No.
Cruise?
Did you say Cruise?
Uber.
Oh, Uber. Actually, no. I think Uber shut down their RoboTaxi thing. I think that was part of also. There was like talks about Uber and Elon or something having talks with Tesla, but I don't think that went anywhere. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, and then Google at their earnings, they said they're putting $5 billion more into Waymo to do that. So I mean, Google's pushing it forward. Apple's dropped out. So yeah, so really there's only Google. I imagine maybe Google partners with Uber in some form or fashion as a way to expand.
Google or Tesla? Because there's that, I guess maybe it doesn't matter. I was gonna say there is that rumor around Travis Kalanick, coming in to lead RoboTaxi. He has the ties to Uber, although he's not, I guess, maybe very tied to it anymore.
Yeah, but yeah, I think maybe Travis, but I think Dara might think, oh, maybe working with Google is better than working with Elon.
But then, yeah,
and because it actually works, right? It's actually they actually get it proven. It's more about scale. Yeah. Maybe plugged into like Uber's network is a way for them to, hey, book a Waymo, your Uber.
Yeah. But then the cars are ugly.
They're Jags. What are you talking?
But they have all Jaguar. They have all these spinny things and all that stuff on the outside.
Well, I mean, like from a marketing perspective, part of that, right, is it gives it a brand.
Yeah.
Right. You know what it is. Like, oh, that's a Waymo. It's cool, right? It's a robo car. But it's a Jaguar, so you can't fault it for that.
Well, my price target to where I'm going to maybe accumulate more Tesla is around 200. If it gets there, I'll buy a little bit more, but I haven't taken this opportunity on this dip because I think I'm good for now with my buys at 160.
Okay, it never hit my $100 price target, so I guess I'll never be in Tesla at this point.
I will say though, you mentioned Rivian, and again, I always say I guess every episode is don't sleep on Rivian. I think they're doing some really great things, and I was listening to an interview recently from RJ Scaringe, their CEO, and he was talking about, someone was asking him about CarPlay, why he doesn't integrate it into Rivians, and he had a strong stance on it that, it's about the user experience and like having a fully integrated car experience versus needing their open CarPlay app, and then you want to do something else in your car, you have to close the CarPlay app, and it just doesn't integrate well. So I think that was very, to me personally, good to hear, but also gives you, the understanding that RJ Scaringe, who I'll say his name more and more just because they're starting to get pretty bullish on him, how he has more of like an Apple-esque / Tesla / approach to where they want to build, own, and deliver a superb user experience by owning it themselves versus relying on third parties.
So. Yeah, I've noticed that was interesting also this week is he seems to be making the rounds a bit more. I think they also announced their R2 pre-order numbers. I think it was over 100K at this point. And so it's like, oh, okay, they're doing some press. They're doing their PR round, I guess I should say. So it's interesting, especially his take on, I guess, the approach, kind of what you're speaking to of like, why not CarPlay, going the Tesla route. And I think it also speaks to Volkswagen's investment in what they were looking for, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they also want to move away, not to have to do like Android Auto or, CarPlay as part of like kind of like their in-product experience. And so this is another way for Rivian to expand, I guess, the services model, what seems to be the thing, right? So they're not just a car company either. Anyways.
Yeah. I don't know how it is in your circle or in the Bay Area, but here in my circle of community in Seattle, most people know know Rivian, know of it as like a competitor to Tesla from an EV perspective. Mostly it's positive, whereas I think it's the only brand that I'm observing that people know about, like other than Tesla. No one talks about Lucid. You know how I feel about Lucid. And no one talks about these other, EV brands. I guess the only other, I guess, two car companies that I've heard people are interested in terms of EVs is Ford Truck, if you like trucks. And then the Porsches, like the Macan and the Taycan.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, Rivian. That's even Rivian. I'm happy with where I am with Rivian right now.
Yeah. I am too. It's a couple more and I'll be break even.
I will say though, sorry, last thing I'll say, related to all these earnings coming up and how the market has pulled back pretty significantly, especially in tech. If you have a long-term, this is not financial advice, but this is our opinions and what I'm doing. If you have a long-term mindset, it's a good buying opportunity for some stocks, because a year from now, once the Fed lowers rates, once companies start to get more access to capital again, these tech companies are going to boom. These tech and growth companies are going to boom probably in a year and a half, once the Fed corrects things. So,
yeah, and we'll have a new president, right? And so that uncertainty will be gone next year. So yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. Go on to overview the next story.
Yeah. So the other, I guess the big announcement in tech was OpenAI, ChatGPT, announced their official, I'll call it their official entry into the search wars, which is interesting on multiple fronts. And so their search GTP is not available yet. Everybody can join for a wait list, even for paid subscribers. But anyways, so they outlined kind of like their vision for a search and kind of like their approach. Yeah, I mean, so that was just a big announcement. Haven't been able to see what the product. There's like a small like video of Sam kind of talking through how they're thinking about it. And so at this point, I'll just say I am interested to see how they decide to tackle it. I think what was interesting for me is they've positioned it as a prototype, right? Which to me means they're trying to be non-committal about it. And I think I know why, right? If you look at a lot of the issues that Perplexity has had over the past months about, scraping, not attributing, their responses to the sources and stuff, I think that's what they're trying to figure out. How do they do it like Google without it being like Google? If that makes sense, right? And so they're really trying to figure out how do they tackle the ecosystem perspective of search, which a lot of people don't really think about, and I think a lot of users probably don't really understand, right? There's a lot more than just showing you what you're looking for, right? There's considerations into where that content is coming from and how it's being presented to you. It goes beyond like, oh, I know people want to say, oh, Google puts all these ads at the top, right? Well, I mean, it's yes and no, right? Anyways, it's more like we'll see. I'll be interested to see once they start to open up the wait list, but it'll be, I'm not saying optimistic, but I'll be interested to see how they try to tackle it, because I know they're looking at it from hopefully a new way of looking at search, if that makes sense. Right? Google's been doing it for like 20-ish years now, right? So they've kind of like, it's hard to do something new when you've been working on the singular product for like that for so long.
Yeah.
Fresh take. That's what I'm saying. Hopefully they have a fresh take on what search is. I don't think Perplexity necessarily has done it right, even though people say, oh yeah, you use Perplexity for search. Can you really? That's not really what Perplexity is trying to do. Perplexity is trying to summarize a lot of things and give you like a book. I mean, essentially that's what they're doing, right? It's not really meant for searching. So that's why I'm more interested in how OpenAI is doing. It's like, how are they helping you search? Not how are they helping you summarize, if that makes sense.
It does. I have a bit of an augmented opinion on what you just said as well, though. I think strategically, I think this makes sense for ChatGPT, because there's still a lot of people like me to where they've heard about ChatGPT, don't really know the power of it.
Right.
And, I'll be talking about it and I'll be like, oh, did you use ChatGPT? Or, yeah, I use ChatGPT for this. And they're like, really? ChatGPT can do that? And it's because they haven't used it. We're still in the, I'd say, not really early adopter, maybe a step after early adopter but we're still in this phase where people using ChatGPT are early adopters slash, I guess, more tech comfortable. But search is something everyone knows. Like everyone has been using search for the last 20 years, at least. And so strategically, I think this is a way for ChatGPT to bridge that gap between their conversational ChatGPT product and traditional like Google search.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a way to do that, but then add the layer of what OpenAI is doing well, which is their AI products, their large language model processing. Add that layer on this search experience to get a more precise search result for you.
Yeah.
So that's one aspect. And then, ChatGPT, it still uses data. The relevancy of data is still, I think, beginning of this year. I think last time I checked, it was October of last year, or maybe even January of this year. So they're still 4 or 5 months behind. And Search GPT allows them to be more relevant into current events, to which a lot of people use, search in Twitter for example. So yeah, I think that's my take on kind of why they're doing this, and I think it makes sense. I signed up for the wait list, and so if I get access to it, I'll definitely talk about it here. But from what I'm seeing in the prototype page that they have, yeah, it's pretty good. I think.
I'll be interested to see what the actual final, like quote, final MVP of it looked like, because they're trying to bridge of still maintaining the chats-ish aspect versus like when somebody's searching, it's actually very different than how when you're having a conversation, right? But on top of that, right? I guess it's a side topic, but very, very similar is right. Meta, this big thing is they launched their huge Llama 3.1 update. I don't even know if I can call it stuff. Their new model.
Mark's flowy hair.
Yeah, and Minstrel, I always mispronounce it. Minstrel, the one based out of France, also launched their kind of like updated model. And I think what that kind of set off is they're actually very comparable to Gemini and ChatGPT, but because they're open source, people are now saying it's like the race to the bottom, basically, as far as actual models. And so that's why I also think this move into Search GTP is another way to help OpenAI kind of like just set itself apart, right? And we've talked about this before, right? It's like, like once all these models are on par, or eventually they will become very similar, right? As far as what they can handle, but really what's going to set these companies apart, or what's going to set successful companies apart, is the data, right? How do they use these models to basically make themselves different? And so I think that's where OpenAI is going with Search GTP, right? It's like, and why they've made all these different content deals is so that they have unique data to train on and to be able to leverage and use to make it different. But
yeah,
anyway, so I won't go much into it. I'll just say there's a lot of new at this point, very comparable open source models to the closed source models from big tech. And so I think that's also igniting another fire across the board.
Yeah.
Really.
All right. Well, I'm excited to get access to this. But I'm also still just waiting for the stuff they talked about back in March. Like, the whole presentation they did around all the cool things coming. I still don't see any of it.
Yeah.
So hurry it up. All right. Let's go over our last story here. We said we would check in on our astronauts up in space that were sent to the space station by Boeing. And unfortunately, they're still up there. I think we talked about it maybe 2 or 3 episodes ago, where Boeing Starliner had their first launch and sent 2 astronauts to the International Space Station. they encountered some problems, and they're basically, the headlines were that the astronauts couldn't return. However, Boeing was trying to play it off as, oh no, we're just, we're conducting tests, we're doing research. We never said that they would come back, during this time, so don't worry about it. Well, 50 days later, the astronauts are still up in space, and there's no return date set for them yet. Apparently, this trip was supposed to be 10 days. That was what they were supposed to go up there for. But there have been constant issues with the Starliner, and as of late, the spokespeople from Starliner are just saying they're still trying to figure out and determine, the problems. They're still running tests. They just want to make sure that it's safe for the astronauts to return to Earth. That's most important. Obviously, that's most important. But just what a flub. And I think you said it, Tony. When is Elon going to go save them?
With the Dragon capsule, Dragon crew. Which is funny you say that, because NASA said the same thing. It's like, don't worry. Well, if we need to, we can ask Elon to help out. But there's actually a Dragon capsule attached to the space station. So that's one. And I think there's a second mission going up in August with another capsule that they can use to bring back the astronauts. So they've got 2 out, but they keep, it's so funny. It's like, I were the astronauts. It's like, there's no way I'm going to take the Starliner back. But they were saying, it's like, yeah, we still plan to have the Starliner come back with the astronauts because it needs to be crewed as part of the way it works. And like, I get it, but like, seriously, if I was the astronauts, like, there's no way. You guys just like can't figure it out. Apparently, it's a lot of the propulsion, the way they designed the propulsion system, or the way it's been built. They need to redo it, or they need to rethink it, because it's not working the way. There's unintended way. That's what's happened. Is the way they built it. There's some unintended things that are broken with the way it was designed. So they're gonna have to revisit the propulsion thing once they figure it out, once they bring it back. Anyways, so yeah, astronauts stuck in space. Most likely, they're gonna come back in a Dragon capsule.
Well,
Boeing, man.
Boeing, but also like, hopefully his astronauts return safely. At the same time, like, I had to take it out to space, but a lot of astronauts, it's their like lifelong dream, right, to go out to the International Space Station. Like, hey, go spend 10 days out there. Oh no, you have to stay out there for 2 months. I think as an astronaut, I'd be like, yeah, do it. With you. Although they have families, I'm sure they're missing their families, but as an astronaut, I'm sure they are enjoying being right now.
Extra time. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll see what happens with these astronauts and keep you updated. But that was it for this episode 24. Some really great things to talk about. And it sounds like we're going to have some really great things to talk about in the next few months here, with earnings, with Tesla's event, with AI competition, and with the presidential election and Olympics hitting the world with news. So we'll see you next week. Subscribe, follow, leave us your comments, and appreciate everyone who's listening to us.
We'll see you next episode.